One of the ways that we are really pissing off the rest of the world is our attitude. Our attitude about money. We'll take countries, for example, I don't know, Ireland. And we'll take an American corporation, I don't know, Apple, that has $500 billion in offshored money. Well, more than that, $750 billion. I think the number I saw today, somewhere $780 billion. Jesus Christ. And the reason it's offshore and it's kept out of the country is because these sons of bitches, Tim Cook and Apple board, they don't want to, fuck you. Why should we pay anything to the United States of America? But they will use other countries and then bring the whole European Union into just an absolute froth of bad feelings and transatlantic anger. For example, the European Competition Commission, I think that was the one that came up with this, that said Apple owes the European Union $19 billion in back tax payments. Now, Tim Cook, who took over, described that ruling as, his words, total political crap. Wow. Not partial, total political crap. And the European Competition Commissioner that I mentioned the other night, Margrethe Vestager, said the demand for back tax payment was based on the facts. Now, politically, the Obama administration, and I will guarantee you every single member of Congress, especially Republicans, are lining up with Apple and accusing the European Union of trying to grab tax revenue that should go to the U.S. government. Well, wait a minute. Why is the money over there to begin with? I mean, I'm probably just full of shit up to my ears, but I think it's over there so Apple doesn't have to pay taxes on it. Isn't that what a lot of U.S. corporations have done? I forget what the term, there's a term for it now. But they will partner with a foreign company. And of course, they'll be the senior partner. But the foreign company then becomes the base of operations. So therefore, Apple's not an American corporation. Or Corporation XYZ that's been in the United States for 150 years is no longer an American corporation. Well, it is. But for tax reasons, it isn't. That's how it works. That's how capitalism works. In Ireland itself, where all this shit has come down, the government of Ireland and public opinion seem to be divided over whether to take the windfall, the $19 billion that Apple owes. Yes, they do. Now, what would Ireland do with that $19 billion? Would they buy fighter jets and tanks and bombs and death? No, what they would do would be to, according to them, they would fund Ireland's health system for a year. Oh, those goddamn Irish. Health system? We can't do that here. Why should it be done there, right? But I think in a very direct way, it's Ireland's money. Anyway, a group of independent lawmakers in Ireland whose support is crucial to this coalition survival called for review of how tax is collected from these multinationals. And the reluctance to back a call for an appeal by the country's finance minister has cast some doubt on whether Ireland will challenge Mrs. Vestager's decision. So even though there's some dissension, because in Ireland, the attitude by a lot of Irish government officials and citizens, well, we can't do this. We need these companies to come here and offer jobs. See how that works? That's the way capitalism works. Apple said it will appeal the ruling. He told the newspaper, the Irish Independent, Tim Cook did, quote, "No one did anything wrong here, and we need to stand together. Ireland is being picked on, and this is unacceptable. It's total political crap. Ireland is being picked on." Now that, I don't think I've ever heard that, that way of trying to avoid a tax bill. Now, Apple has $780 billion stashed, and this is $19 billion in legitimate taxes they owe. We need to stand together. Ireland's being picked on. Now, like I mentioned the other night, Ms. Vestager, the woman with the European Competition Commission, has questioned how anyone might think an arrangement that allowed Apple to pay a tax rate of 0.05%, as Apple's Irish did, was fair. How is that fair? But Tim Cook, I mean, goddammit, this is political crap. 0.005% of 1% taxes. 0.005 tax rate. Now, Ms. Vestager, the woman with the European Competition Commission, said today that the calculations were based on data provided by Apple itself and evidence presented during these hearings on Apple tax issues in the United States. So these are not numbers being made up by those goddamn Europeans. These are numbers that Apple provided. Because Apple figured, well, we're okay. We paid our taxes, 0.005% of 1%. So fuck them. We'll show them anything they want. Yeah. Oh. Now, according to what I have here, the battle lines are forming over this issue on both sides of the Atlantic. In Paris, the French finance minister backed Ms. Vestager's view that Apple's Irish tax arrangements amounted to abnormal state aid. Oh, no shit. He told a news conference, the French finance minister, the European Commission is doing its job. It's normal to make Apple pay normal taxes. And the German economy minister also supported the decision by the European Competition Commission. Austria also welcomed the ruling. But Britain, which, voted in June to leave the EU, although they're still part of it, sort of. Britain has stayed out of the debate, saying it is an issue for the Irish government, Apple, and the Commission. We're not going to get our hands dirty with that shit, right? There's a group of independent alliance, group of lawmakers. That's how they have identified themselves. That's the name they've given themselves, Independent Alliance. And they are in favor. These are Irish lawmakers, members of their parliament. And they issued a statement, or one of the members, a junior minister, said, quote, "I don't think Apple has paid sufficient tax. I don't think they've been illegal in what they've done. It's the tax system as it's set up." He went on to say the Independent Alliance has asked that we review our intake of tax, how we take tax in from multinationals, and are we collecting fair tax? 1/1000th of 1%. I don't know, call me crazy, but that just doesn't seem right, especially when Apple is offshoring $750 billion so that no tax, nowhere, no how. Certainly not in the United States. You know what Tim Cook said when this shit hit the fan? Cook said part of the company's 2014 tax bill will be paid next year when the company, this is in the U.S., when the company, Apple, repatriates offshore profits to the U.S. Repatriates. Is there an amnesty being declared? What's going on? Did I say 780? I'm sorry. Apple is found to be holding $180 billion in accumulated profits offshore, more than any U.S. company. And the reason the $180 billion is being held offshore is to avoid paying U.S. taxes, which, you know, the tax code is set up so they're able to do that. But at some point, either Apple's going to have to leave so they can get their hands on the money, or they're going to have to bring the money back, in which case they'll have to pay the taxes. But what they're holding out for is a tax amnesty. You know, let the government, now especially Donald Trump, I'm sure will say, I don't give a fuck, do what you want to do. And Donald Trump's Secretary of the Treasury will say, okay, boys, look, you can bring the money back. We'll charge you, what'd you pay in Ireland, 0.005%? We'll charge you 1%. And Jack Lew, who's the U.S. Treasury Secretary, is on the side of Apple, of course. He said, I've been concerned that this ruling reflected an attempt to reach into the U.S. tax base to tax income that ought to be taxed in the United States. Ought to be. But, Jack, it's not being taxed in the United States. And the Apple subsidiary in Ireland is paying 5/1000ths, that's what they agreed to pay, of 1%. Now the Irish, some of the Irish, on the streets of Dublin, it says here, some argued Ireland had to keep drawing foreign investors with low tax rates to provide jobs. But other people said the Irish government should drop the idea of appealing the decision and take the money. Louise O'Reilly, 57 years old, a full-time carer for her diabetic and partially blind mother, said, quote, they're doing the wrong thing. They don't care about the normal people. The money should be spent on the old age pensioners who worked all their lives and are struggling to survive. Oh, please. Mrs. O'Reilly. Do you think American capitalism gives a rat's ass about the old pensioners who worked all their lives and are struggling to survive? Would that they did feel that way, Mrs. O'Reilly, but you're dealing with predatory capitalism. And predatory capitalism doesn't even acknowledge your existence, much less want to pay you money. Miss O'Reilly's mother, the one who's diabetic and partially blind, pays 10 euros, about $15 tax on a monthly pension of 1,050 euros or $1,558. A higher rate than Apple's main Irish unit paid on its profits last year. Well, a capitalist would say, you're goddamn right, and that's the way it should be.